invite anybody at this time to approach with public comment if you have any. Public comment?
I think that's you, Jack.
No?
Open to public?
Sure.
Well, what I've got to say has probably got more to do with number 5 on your agenda. I don't know if I should do it now and then find it lost later.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your name and address?
My name's Jack Lyman. I live at 16 Fifth Avenue Northeast. To a visitor to this community, it's obvious we've got 2 distinct cities, north of 12th Avenue and south of 12th Avenue. North of 12th Avenue, we've got well-kept properties. South of 12th Avenue, we've got a scattered dump sprinkled among here and there among well-kept properties. Now, the rest of this has got to do with your number 5.
Go ahead.
You want me to deliver it all now, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I hope it's not forgetting by the time you get to number 5. First, I want to clarify a couple points. Do we or do we not have city codes that if you're going to park certain items such as campers, boats, trailers, vehicles, and so forth on your property, there are certain requirements one must comply with? Do we have city codes that require residents to keep sidewalks clear of snow and ice in the winter, and in the summer the lawns mowed? Now, if this is not true, then what I've got to say from now on is pointless. Do we have these codes and ordinances? Okay, Mr. Mayor, sometime back, you let your views known in the Hampton Chronicle, and I may not have this exactly right, but you felt a property owner should have the right to do what they wish on their property within the limits of the law. Codes and ordinances will not be enforced unless there is a complaint. My wording may not be exact, but it's as I interpret it as I read it. My question is it wise to pit neighbor against neighbor? We have a code officer and sub-code officers, the police officers, whose jobs it is to enforce the law without the need of a complainant. Each year our assessed value increases, which means higher property taxes, but our sellable property value, at least south of 12th Avenue, actually decreases due to these scattered dumps and unkept property. Why are 1 or 2 uncaring property owners allowed to destroy the property value of a conscientious property owner, more so destroy the value of an entire neighborhood? Behind me to the north, I've got a budding junkyard that, if it's allowed to continue, will soon look like a scene from American Pickers. But perhaps if this neighbor maintains his yard as he's done in the past, the grass butt height of a 3-year-old will hide all the junk. To the east of me, I've got a property that's gone back to a mortgage holder. The house is standing empty. I've yet to see an absentee mortgage holder bother to see that their vacant properties are maintained. I'm sure I can look forward to a hayfield to my east this summer. Each fall, the city places a warning in the newspaper about keeping sidewalks clear. Every spring, the city places a warning in the newspaper about keeping lawns mowed. Every winter, we have sidewalks in my area that go the entire winter without being cleared. We have lawns that get pretty shaggy before they're attended to, if at all. Those who take no pride in their property pay no heed to the city codes, ordinances, or warnings. When the city does not enforce what's on the books, then what's on the books becomes a laughing matter, becomes a joke. And I've had people say the city's not going to do anything, so why should I worry about it? You folks were elected by the citizens to tend to these matters, to do what's best for the city, to draft needed codes and ordinances and apply them equally and fairly to all citizens. We have a code officer to tend to the code and ordinance violations. We have police officers that are paid to enforce the law, all laws, not just a select few. I would suggest at this point that if the city codes and ordinances are not going to be enforced, then they be struck from the books. Then we'll all do as we damn well please without fear of consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And yeah, I think you were pretty accurate in your restatement of what I said at the time, and we did have some discussion about that at a committee level meeting, and Mr. Eckhart, among others, have had conversations with me and different things, and I mean I agree, and I see exactly the point you're making. Part of what I have. I don't know if I want to say that I changed my mind necessarily, but opened my mind to is the fact that what you point out to, the property value of other owners. What I'm looking at is the single property owner, and that's what I was thinking of when I made that statement that you referenced in the paper. But no, you make a very valid and well put statement, and I think that's probably the reason that we have the discussion of nuisance enforcement on the agenda here tonight, and we'll revisit that later. So thank you very much for your statement. Is there anything else? Public comment?
Pardon me.
Good evening. Barry Lamos, 215 3rd Street Southeast. I'd also like to bring up the nuisance issue. I've taken the mayor for a ride. I've taken Ron for a ride. Craig and I have ridden around town when I was on the council. We have plenty of houses in this town with holes in the roofs, garages, dilapidated buildings, and the city should be the first one to know about these premises because the water's been turned off. So how long has the water been turned off? One place I showed you, Mr. Mayor, it's been vacant since I came to town. That's been 17 years. So I guess I'm just, I'm baffled by this. We drive by this stuff, and does everybody just turn another cheek, or?
Mostly, I think what you're talking about is abandoned properties. Or is that right?
Well, I don't know if they're abandoned. Somebody must be paying the taxes.
Right.
We've got businesses the same way. I know it's a tough issue. It was a tough issue when I was on the council. And it's a money issue. I don't know. I'm just, it's like Jack said, you got two parts of town. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Anything else for public comment? Okay. If not, then we'll move on. Next on the agenda is Bradley Waddle with discussion of Aquatic Center operations for 2013.
Jesus Christ, here comes the freebie shit.
Evening. How are we doing tonight? Good.
What?
Well, a few things that you guys had asked me to look into were the pricing of some facilities around our area as far as what they charge for family and single passes and stuff. I believe you guys have that in front of you. It doesn't really look like, from the information that we gathered 2 years ago, anybody's really done any significant price rising, or if any at all. So I guess my suggestion would be to leave what we have alone for this year as well. As far as the pricing, I think if we were to do a preseason sale like we did in the past, we sold a majority of our summer passes throughout that time and that slot of time. So I think if we could get that opened up now until the end of June, or sorry, until the 1st of June, or that Saturday of that first week in June, I believe that's the first, June 1st, through that Saturday, I think we'd benefit from sales there. One thing that you can see here, Clear Lake, Mason City, some of the bigger towns have added a spot where they could add a caregiver for an additional $30. I guess to me, I talked to Ron and Doug a brief moment, I think more so with Doug, but that's not a bad idea. If you have somebody who comes and watches your kid every single day, to have them, on your family plan or whatever. What we had done in the past was we just charged them a single person's rate for the $45, the preseason rate. So we give them a little bit bigger of a break. I'm not sure if people would then turn around and do that, buy more, or if they would buy less, just because of the price break there. It wouldn't have to be $30, we could say it's $35 or $40, whatever, but I think that's something that people might benefit from, and they might look at saying, you know what, my kids might go to the pool more with their caregiver during that time period. Yes, go ahead.
If a family had 2 part-time caregivers, that would be two times the money, right?
2 times the money. You'd have to say it's a one primary. You'd have to word it to where it's the primary care. Who watches them the most? Kind of flip a coin type deal, I guess. Who do they feel like would be more beneficial from it?
Riley, I see a number of these other communities have a under 3 free, or age 0 to 2 years, or 0 to 5 for 3 for free. Do you think? Do you see that as having? Is that something we should consider?
We're not in it to make money. I know we've had that discussion, but that would be quite a majority of our population. Is that younger crowd from 0 to 4, 0 to 3, whatever it may be, that come in on family passes, but there's a lot of people that come in. So I guess...
So if a young mother comes in carrying a baby who's 6 months old, does the baby get charged?
Yes, at this current time.
I just don't know about that, but...
Well, and, the reason I think the discrepancy is you could lie about your kid's age or whatever, it was just a flat deal where, if somebody knows somebody and says, well, they're 8 months or whatever, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, I think that's what we try to do, is just try to do away with the guessing of the age and just say, it's the flat rate of whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the thinking in the past. But whatever you guys feel, we can.
Wouldn't that go against just what you just said, that you're not in a business not to make money then? How much time and effort is this 6-month-old child going to take? You're not babysitting it, the parent is, or the caregiver.
That's what we would like to think, Craig, to be honest with you. We say we don't babysit kids, we're there for the safety, but, a lot of the time those are the kids that we're picking up from underneath their shoulders and stuff, because their mom's talking to their lady friends and having a good old time, and, their kid crawls away or, gets out too deep, and, it's one of those things where, what I'm saying as far as the money process is, I don't think it's going to bring in any more business. I don't think it's going to bring more people to the facility, I guess is my thoughts on that. So, I guess, you guys are the ones that decide, what you feel is fair. And, I just want to uphold what you guys want. And as long as we're all on the same page, we can step forward and go whichever way you want. It's just one of those things that we have to be firm, fair, and consistent throughout the course of the year, from start to finish.
I kind of think that 0 to 2 or something like that, I'm kind of going, I'm looking at it from a parent's, even a father's point of view. Well, it's just going to cost me a couple bucks to get in, I can take a kid with me. It might make a difference, it might not, but I'm kind of in favor of maybe looking at doing something about that.
That's just the daily pass, right?
Right.
Like aren't the vast majority going to be a season pass anyway? Is there that many that come just on a daily, individual daily basis?
We're seeing that, I mean, the new facility's only been open 2 years, so we kind of see the transition. Their last year we sold fewer family passes than we did the first year. I think some people are saying, you know what, we didn't get our money's worth, or we don't think we're going to go as much as we would if we were to buy a family pass, or vice versa. So they do come in and they pay, out of pocket for the handful of times they come. We did see that trend come back a little bit. To say the data is going to look like that again, we wouldn't know until the end of the season. But that's something that hindsight's always 20/20. You can say we tried it and it didn't work, but once you implement something, it's tough to come back to it and re-justify why you're charging for that age group.
Excuse me, is there some input here? It's awful distracting.
Sorry.
Appreciate it. Sorry, Brad.
Hey, not a problem.
I think the thing that sticks out to me is that the majority of these communities around us are doing this for these lower age kids. So with the experience that they've got, I'm wondering if there isn't maybe something we aren't seeing. I don't see that we're going to lose revenue by doing that.
Right. And that's totally, like I said, from the number standpoint, it's totally.
I'd support it from the 2 and under. 2 and under standpoint.
I think a 3-year-old's probably going to be using the zero depth entry, so they're going to be getting something for their money. I think, zero, of course, they're not going to be getting anything for their money, and up to 2, I wouldn't go any higher than 2, but if we did do something. But.
Like I said, I'm more than willing to do whatever it is that you guys want. It's just a matter of, what you guys want, and we'll make sure we can take care of it.
Are we anticipating any significant increase in costs that would necessitate a look at increasing the season pass rate at all? Or?
No, not necessarily. I brought to you guys last meeting that I wasn't looking for an assistant manager. That's kind of turning the tide a little bit. I've been in contact with a few people who might be interested in it, to where before, when I brought it to you, I had racked my brain and scrambled, and I couldn't figure out if there was somebody that I feel would fit the, I wouldn't say fit, the whatever, not as a good fit, but as far as interest in partying with. There's been a couple people who've approached me, so I'm kind of putting that on a burner here. They're supposed to get back to me. I said I need to know sooner than later, so then I can come back to you guys. If there's not, that would be the only other thing, because last year we didn't have an assistant manager. But halfway through the season, we did kind of put Haley Hansen into that assistant manager role by giving her a 50-cent pay raise to $8, I believe it was, to justify for all the work that she was doing when I wasn't there, kind of giving me a break. Other than that, the only other thing, if we don't get an assistant manager, I'm gonna ask for just a little bit more money for myself to do all the ends versus just whatever. I'm not talking tens of, just maybe 50 cents, 75 cents an hour, dollar tops, just kind of get to that point.
When do you anticipate determining what your plan is and what you're going to?
Well, like I said, the deadline for all of the applications, which I've talked to some people who are off at college yet, aren't able to get back and get an application and stuff. I said, just let me know, we'll get everything taken care of. But the deadline is the 15th, and I told those 2 people that I was kind of talking to about this that I'd like to know kind of by the 15th. I'd like to have everything done and ready to go by the 1st of May. So we're looking at 2 or 3 weeks here to get through the end of April, and then hope to have everything geared up and ready to go first part of April.
So I would recommend by that first workshop in May that you come with your plan.
Right. And my plan initially was to ask for that 75 cents or $1 raise on my side.
You said 50 cents a minute.
Well, it might be $3 before I'm done talking.
Well, then we need to wrap it up.
No, 50 cents, whatever it is, but if we can get somebody that I think would do a great job, then, I think that'd be more beneficial to everybody around.
Yeah, Doug?
I'd just like to add one thing. We're really hoping that with programming and such that we'll have another good year. Just want everybody to keep in mind the curve that we're given will be during planning and construction. This curve's always been there. That first year you start up here, we're going to go down to 3 to 5 years before we level out to find out what a consistency is going to be at our facility. That's the fact. Fact of the matter is newness wears off, and that happens. So just so you have that in your mind a little bit, would not surprise me if we're a little lower than what even last year was. But hopefully with programming we can get it as close as we possibly can to that. But just wanted to let you know that's kind of what the thought process has been all along.
The only other thing that I wanted to bring to you guys tonight is the some of the programming stuff that we talked about. We had done away with a few things last year. This year, we are going to do away with the adult swim time from the 8 to 9 o'clock hour. We haven't been getting anybody to show up on a consistent basis. If it is, it's 1 or 2 people, and they come for 15, 20 minutes. That might give us some opportunity to save some money on some salary stuff. I kind of worked it out where we're cleaning and have a couple people, so I try to make use of that time. But that's something that we're going to take out of our programming. We can always try to put it back in later, but this year I'm going to try to do specialized evenings, maybe late at night, and some other things like that throughout the course of the summer to maybe just make that a special event, and maybe if we can get some more participation and some people to come into that program.
So the decisions you need tonight then from the council is you need a season pass rate,
Right.
and whether or not they want to add a caregiver.
Right.
Is everybody okay with keeping it at 100 for the preseason, 125 for the regular? Okay. And 2 and under for caregiver, is that? Or 2 and under for free. Yeah, that's what I was. Any problems with that?
I'm just getting specific here, but are we going at second birthday or at third birthday? I'm unclear of the way you're presenting that. I was saying second birthday is that.
I would say up to 2, so yeah, second birthday.
Okay.
That work? Okay.
Great. And if there's any other questions, please feel free. Get a hold of me sometime. If you have anything now, I'm more than happy to answer them.
So basically, we've just kept everything the way it was. We've just added up to the free pass for the 2 and under.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brad.
So I guess
Yeah.
I misunderstood that. So we're not going to do anything with the caregiver, or is that something?
Oh, yeah, I guess, did you guys want to add a caregiver?
That's, if you don't, that's fine. Like I said,
Single
As far
pass.
as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
The caregiver. Adding a possibility of caregiver at either $25 or $30 for the season pass, as opposed to making them buy a single person pass at $60.
It'd be nice if we knew if there was a lot of caregivers that were coming to a pool, watching other people's children that were using that family pass. If that would be the case, they wouldn't need any extra funding, because a family pass has already been paid for. And my thought would be that whether it's the parent or the mother or the father or the caregiver, they're still an adult with that child. You follow me? If they had a family pass. But we're saying we're going to charge a caregiver price for $30 for
the caregivers, like if
It
they
would be
have
somebody
babysitter.
outside of the family.
Right. Because right now, the way we have it stated in our languages is it's 18 and under goes under a family pass as long as they're in high school. And then a family pass is just strictly parents, mother and father.
Babysitter kid.
And a babysitter would have to get us, and what we have done in the past is when they bought their family pass, they also bought them a single person pass.
Sure.
So, I mean, we had parents do that, but then it just becomes their own. And then they could also come whenever they wanted to.
I'd be in favor of the $30 pass.
What's everybody else think? Val?
I think I can.
David?
I want to see as many people use the school as we can. I don't want to see this be a deterrent, but I don't think that price is out of line. And this is the third year, so if you're wanting to establish your bell curve, you'll soon find out if this is a detractor from this or not.
Steve? Agree with the $30?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll go with that, then I think that sounds like what's got support, so.
Okay, and then we're okay with the preseason up to and through June 1st, so we can advertise that and stuff like that. Get that on. Okay. And then the other thing is that one quick thing is the week that we talked about, I made the decision that we're going to go for Memorial Day weekend. We'll be open Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we're going to close down Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday we'll be open for the weekend. We'll open up Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday we also is the last day of school for the kids, so we'll be closed that Monday, and then we'll open up Tuesday. That would be June 4th for the summer in full. The other thing is I'm going to open it up to the school and see if they want to come in and do like a water safety, like a preseason something for the elementary / middle school kids to come in and learn water etiquette and learn the rules of the pool. Maybe they could do that through their phys ed time or whatever. I'm just going to have a conversation with the school to see if that's something that they would be interested to. It wouldn't be any extra cost to you. They would provide everything on their side with guards and stuff like that. So we wouldn't have any cost other than just having the facility open at that time.
Okay.
So I appreciate your time. I will make those plans and stuff like that, and we'll just get going.
Okay.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, next is discussion of Spruce Up Day.
I had forwarded an email to you from Brooke to Doug regarding the fact that the chamber was no longer going to do the Spruce Up Day in the sense that they used to, where they would line up, where they pick up couches and appliances and things like that. And so Kent has another plan that they're going to do some volunteer work for some cleanup of parks.
Yeah, we felt like the project in the past really hasn't been financially feasible for the chamber. We used to do it as a fundraiser, and that's really not working. And the scholarship thing in the past, Bob's worked with us before, and we really haven't had a whole lot of takers on that. And we felt like we were probably really not cleaning up the town so much, because most of the stuff we end up picking up is probably from private individuals who want to get rid of a couch out of their basement. I don't think we're really cleaning up the alleyways and this junk that we would really ideally like to get. We're getting people that would probably take care of it some other way anyway, just a thought. But since we didn't have the horsepower that we wanted to allocate toward that this year, I volunteered to just do more of a park and city property cleanup. Talked to Ron a little bit. April 27th is a Saturday. At this point, we've got it on our calendar. We've checked with the school calendar and stuff, and that seemed to be an okay morning from 9 to 11, just a couple hours. We'll put a little publicity out there. It sounds like the city can provide us some garbage bags at each of the sites that we want to go to. We probably are going to stick to all the city parks unless we don't go on the smaller one over in the northwest corner. I don't know. But we'll probably include the Banshell Park, East Park, Harriman's Park, I think, and Progress Park, yeah. Now, some people, the ball players, may be cleaning that up a little bit before that, too. I'm not sure. But if we have somebody stationed at each site with a few garbage bags and give people some directions during a couple-hour time, we might try to do some promotion to encourage people to show up at that time, whether we have a refreshment for them or something to show up and work for a little while. But Ron said we could just leave the garbage bags there until Monday, unless we have any roaming animals. I don't know if that'll work or not, but we were done by 11 o'clock Saturday. Let you guys decide if you want to have somebody pick it up at that point.
Did you give any consideration to a walk the trail crew?
The walking trail?
Yeah.
Well, we did, except that we mentioned maybe the conservation folks maybe taking care of that already too. I don't know, we could do that, but do we know if they're doing anything on that? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thanks,
Yeah.
Ken. I received an email from Pat Sackville this morning, and she's looking at spearheading that when she gets back from vacation here. And she's contacted myself and Jason Gooder, and she can work with Jason on that, as that's conservation property. So I do think that she's gonna probably take the bull by the horns like she typically does, it sounds like.
Did she mention any dates?
She didn't, Ken,
Okay.
so I don't know that.
I don't know if it's really important to do it the same day, but I guess if we were advertising it, I guess from the city standpoint, if there was gonna be any other encouragement of cleanup, to say, you know, we're asking for volunteers to do this, to clean up the parks, but we're also encouraging people to clean up their own yards and stuff too, and I don't know how you encourage that if you're not gonna provide a roll-off, and that's the thing. I mean, I've often thought, besides us going out and picking up the stuff, it'd be great if we could just have a one day only, bring your trash to this site and, you know, clean up your spot instead of us having to go pick it up. But I don't know what kinds of material you could handle and who'd pay for that. Any other questions about the chamber?
Another area that we did 2 years ago, or the community did, was the cemetery. That was a very successful day for about 2 hours. Made a huge difference. That was after a storm winter. So there were a lot of branches and things down. But
Well, we were wondering, no, in talking to Ron, we were kind of leaving the branch thing out of it. I guess that's a different deal. This is just litter. We're going to use trash bags. I'm sure there's a lot of stick too, and I don't know if we want to have any equipment at those sites, that if we have extra horsepower, if we want to pick up sticks, that's great, but without requiring people to sign up to come, we don't know who's going to show up either. But if you guys can get back to, we've got time before the 27th, if we want to do something different for more than trash, let me know.
I think this is a great idea, Ken, and I'd like to thank you and the chamber for taking on something like this. Just a few hours will make a big difference if we get enough people to come out and help us with this.
Probably should do it once a month too.
Well, there might be, it's a good start.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
thanks, Ken.
Doug, you had some information here too on the complete appliance demanufacturing with regards to getting rid of old appliances too, I think.
Thanks, Sean. Complete appliance demanufacturing, they're actually gonna come to the city council meeting Thursday night. They're gonna give a brief presentation on what they do collect and how they go about collecting. I think we can see that this is great. I think a lot of the times, some of the things that you see in backyards and on porches might be something that's a potential to be collected actually at no charge. You know, things like the appliances, like washers, dryers, stoves, ovens, dishwashers, microwaves, water heaters, dehumidifiers, air conditioners, freezers, furnaces, and cooling units. These can be collected free of charge, curbside pickup. Basically what it needs is logistics, just putting it together, possibly letting people know maybe there's a sign-in sheet somewhere, and then communicating with this company. But you know, on Thursday night, let's let this gentleman come and give his presentation, kind of see what they got, and then for a fee, there's some other things. You know, I think there's probably nothing safe about a freezer or a refrigerator, as you all know, in someone's yard outside. Sometimes people leave the doors on, kids can get in there. This just may be an avenue to address some of it. It's not going to address all of it by any means, so, but definitely something to look at, and the gentleman will be here on Thursday.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, if there's nothing else on Spruce Up Day, then the next item on the agenda is discussion of nuisance enforcement. Ron, I think, Craig, I think you actually.
Yeah, I'd ask that this be put on the agenda, and the reason why is I've been contacted by different individuals that had shared an interest like I have over the years, that things seem to have left go unchecked, continue to get only worse. I shared with you, I think the last meeting or so, that a while back as my wife and I were out walking, we noticed that there was quite a few sidewalks in town that still aren't even shoveled at that time. And what they're doing is forcing me to walk down into the street to get away from this stuff, or walking through somebody's yard. And I had agreed to go along with that at first, thinking that, you know, let's see how it works out. Let's see what becomes of the program if we don't do anything and we turn it into a complaint basis. But I do agree with Mr. Leinen that what it actually does is, I think it comes down to is it pits neighbor against neighbor, because now it's hard for some people to turn in properties. It's hard for some people to want to come forward for fear of retaliation or now wanting to be the bad guy. But what I did notice and what I've experienced is that the more we don't do anything, the worse it gets. It doesn't go away by itself. And I think that we do need to go back to maybe how we used to do it and enforce the ordinances. With this appliance pickup, there should be no reason now, if it's free and we decide to go with this process, that anybody has an appliance in their backyard or a side yard or wherever. Right? And so maybe we can start again, reinvent the wheel, if you will, but move forward and see what we can get accomplished.
Yeah. No, I think with that appliance demanufacturing, you know, as if there's volunteers going around picking up different trash and different litter and things like that, if you see something in a yard, especially since it's free, if you maybe knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I see you got that sitting there, were you planning on getting rid of it? Would you like to get rid of it? It's free today, just reminding people. I mean, there's no need to be confrontational with folks and tell them they have a nasty yard or anything like that. Just offer the hand. I don't have any problem with what you're saying, Craig.
I think there's a lot of people out there that may feel the same way. I know that there's a lot of people that take a lot of pride in their properties. Mm-hmm. And some of the complaints I've received, I've driven around and looked at them, and I've lived next to that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And in my personal opinion, it does devalue our property. It devalues our net worth. And this city operates on a tax basis that we derive property taxes from all of us, and how do we function without those if we continue to allow the property values to go down? Mm-hmm. I don't think it's right.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
What are we going to do about junk cars sitting in the backyards? Behind me, I got this guy on the lawn, a junk car, an old boat on a trailer, a large enclosed trailer, and he has moved his pickup truck. But all these are parked on the lawn. They're not on a pad, as I believe city ordinances require. And when I first complained to my councilman, he came down the street and looked and saw it. Then it was turned over to the city manager, then to the chief of police and the code officer. Nothing was done. Squad car went down the alley, and the chief made the comment, well, the car is frozen down. He probably can't move it. Well, if it had been parked legally, it wouldn't be frozen down to begin with. Now, he's been out there trying to start it. I don't know if he plans on moving. This car, in 10 years, has moved from his driveway to the backyard. That's all the further's gone. In his driveway, he's got another one in there. I don't know if they're junkers or not. They look like junk. 4 vehicles. I don't know if he registers them every year or not. I mean, that's illegal right there if you don't register them.
I'm assuming that's the property you alluded to.
To the north. To the north. Now, he started a pile of junk by his garden shed, and I mean just piling junk up. Have you ever seen American Pickers? Well, that's what this place is going to look like if something isn't done. Okay, I put up a privacy fence, but now with the vehicles back there, privacy fence don't even work that good. I mean, why don't we enforce our codes?
Well, it sounds like the complaint's been made. Doug or Chief, do you want to comment on how far or what can be done on an enforcement level?
Actually, I believe the reason why what's going on there right now is because he has been talked to in reference to the items that were discussed. The vehicles that were there are all licensed. As far as I know that they did not move this winter. That was also discussed with him that they needed to be moved because of the fact that they have to run. So I believe part of the reason why the junk probably is there is he's trying to clean things up and get that taken care of.
Chief, he's hauling in more junk.
Sure.
Backs his truck into the yard and unloads junk. I don't know where he's getting it. I don't know if he, goes to flea markets and stuff and buys stuff with plans on reselling it or something, I don't know. But the garage is full, the garden shed's full, now he's stacking it in the yard.
Craig, you mentioned, I guess, doing things the old way. I guess as far as what Mr. Linen is concerned with, how does that get handled? I mean, if he doesn't want to clean up his mess, if he gets a fine, how far, is there enough teeth in the ordinance the way it is? Or is there interest to look at restructuring that ordinance?
Well, and that's what I'm kind of getting at, is I don't know that when we used to do it, the chief, we had it broke up into 4 quadrants, the town, and people had, officers had a specific section that they patrolled. And people would call their council persons or whatever, and we would make a list and turn that in. But as far as the junk vehicles, I can't recall that we've ever hauled too many of them away, because if they are licensed, inoperable, but Mr. Linen's right though, they can't be in that backyard situation unless they're either on a hard surface pad or a parking slab of gravel or something. As long as he's got access to the alley, I think that he's okay, but he's not in this case.
Right. And basically what he'd need to do is put gravel in the back, but it has to be a certain area or whatever. One of the things that was addressed, and this goes back to when Chief Waukesha was here, I know that we went around, we were gonna go and notify people they needed to go and move their vehicles because of all the, not just those areas, but a lot of different areas where people have vehicles parked in the backyard, and especially during the wintertime, not on hard surface, okay? And at that time, I don't know what direction he got, but they said, hold off, let's, wait before we go and do something on that. I will do whatever you want me to do. The public needs to know, though, that it's gonna be everybody, as far as, vehicles parked in backyards or whatever, if it's not on hard surface. So.
I'd also like to recommend then what constitutes not to throw thorns in anything, but if there's any teeth, I think the teeth would be, let's readjust the, where it says gravel, I think you need to define 3 inches of packed gravel, because basically you may find someone that's out there, they'll take a 5-gallon bucket full of rocks, throw it out there and say, hey, I'm parked on gravel. So I think if we're gonna adjust and then the other thing to keep in mind is you can't take up any more than 30% of your backyard with a gravel pad.
So this is more than 30%.
I'm sure it is, Craig, I get that, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to show you where there's some potential issues ahead of us. So.
Well, and we also had a provision at one time where in the code that we would allow them to have front yard parking if they had a surface too. And now there's a guy on First Street Northeast who has a concrete slab for a front yard that parks it right up next to the picture window of their house. That doesn't look right, but I guess he's within the law. But we want to be careful on what you say and what you do, because people will hold you to that.
Definitely, that's why I think a true definition in the code is going to be the best way, where it's a little bit clear and cut as far as what we're going to put in there. But you're supposed to have so much lawn in your front yard as well. And we have some places that are, like you said, whole front yards full of gravel or.
Well, I drive by the place that Mr. Lyman's referring to, and there is a minimum of 3 vehicles there. And I thought by definition of code that they had to be operable.
Yep.
Even though they are licensed, you can't just park them there for forever.
Right. No, I agree, Craig. I'm just trying to throw out some things that what Sean was relating to as far as some teeth in the code and some clarification, because it will be awful hard. Because when we go to court, whether it's Bob or myself, and not haven't lost yet on my end, but we have to have our ducks in a row, and just to make sure that everything is what we claim as a complaint and a nuisance truly is a violation, basically. And I, as far as what we have there, I'm sure, you had some violation possibly, it sounds like, but, if there's any changes, I think we definitely want to look at that, so. Just for ease of enforcement, I'm not trying to.
I don't think things are as bad as they once were. I can recall a time when Barry and I went around, I think we filled nearly 3 sheets of notebook paper.
I remember.
And those were unlicensed vehicles. Those were anything you could imagine, stoves and refrigerators. But we've gotten beyond that. The chief and a group of guys got very aggressive. They've done what we've asked. So I'm not faulting you guys, because I was part of that group, as I've told other citizens, that agreed to allow this to go to a complaint basis. So you guys aren't at fault.
Sure.
I'm just saying that this isn't working.
Yeah.
We need to do something better.
I would offer that as a starting point as far as the parked cars on a surface. I think defining that is something we need to look at in the code.
Jack, how's that changed? What's still there today in this yard?
Still, the backyard is a junk car, an old
The one
boat on a
that's been
trailer.
sitting there all winter?
Yeah,
Okay.
old boat on a trailer, a large enclosed trailer that hasn't moved in a couple of months at least. But his pickup truck is gone now. That was always parked there too. That's gone now. So, and the thing, I had trouble here before when that house was rented out. It was much worse junk-wise. I complained. The councilman took a look at it. We went to work. The renter did clean it up fairly well. Well, now the owner has moved into the home. He had the house re-sided, fixed it all up, and I thought, boy, we're home safe now. Now he's starting to do just exactly what the renter did, who the renter happened to be his son. And some of that junk that his son had is still there. One of those cars is one of it. So I don't know, guys. If you don't enforce the law, who's going to pay any attention to it? And if we're not going to do it, take it off the books and we'll all do as we damn well please.
Could I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that this is like a roller coaster issue. It's always been dealt with, and then it lets off, and then things go to a low. But you got to look at business properties too. We have a business in town that's got a fence around it, and it's more or less a junkyard. Now, doesn't a junkyard need a DNR permit? How many vehicles can you put on a property, even if it is a business? I could take any one of you council members around. I bet we could find 50 to 60 cars sitting in people's backyards. And it's never dealt with.
Well, Barry, and it goes beyond just the cars too. I mean, I hear complaints of people noticing that there's trailers dolly down in the street. It was brought to my attention today that there's a skid loader been parked on the street all day. You know, I don't expect the police to run up and down every street, but what I would also like to do though is when people see those complaints, they need to call them in too, or at least let their council person know. I'll turn them in. I've been very vigilant in turning those in, but I think that somebody needs to be aware of just somebody complaining doesn't do any good.
Just get tired of beating a dead horse.
That's right. But if we don't continue to do that, that's what happens, is we all get complacent, I think.
Let the other council members, Craig and Dick.
Well, those complaints can come in without a name on them, and they'll have no name on them as far as repercussions from anyone who's got a problem with a neighbor or someone down the street, someplace that they drive by. Those names are not given out as far as who the complaints are from. So I think there's some sharing there. There should be.
I just think pitting neighbor against neighbor is a bad idea. When I put up my privacy fence, this guy tried to have me arrested for trespassing. And I was walking on my yard, but he thought I was on his yard. He called, Wabasha was chief then. He kept calling the police department until Chief Wabasha finally explained to him what criminal trespass is. Then they quit.
Well, I agree with you, Jack. I don't want to pit neighbor against neighbor either.
That sounds like a tense situation anyway.
Pardon?
That sounds like a tense situation anyway.
Well,
unfortunately.
It's getting to be.
Yeah.
I think our police department does need some help in that respect. And it doesn't have to be out loud, just turn it in when you see it.
I agree, and then how each one's handled has to be consistent. I don't care where it's located. I don't care if it's 1 car or 10 cars. It just needs to be consistent in how we handle it.
I know we discussed this last year quite heavily on letting, at the time I was not happy with letting people call in, because they aren't going to call in and complain. They're gonna complain to their neighbor, they're not gonna call here, because everybody in town hears about it but us. I'm all for giving the police a little bit more teeth to get something done.
Steve?
When police need all the support from us that we can get. I know for a fact, because I've seen it, that this neighbor against neighbor stuff does exist. And one doesn't want to complain on the other one. And I had 9 cars across the street from me for a long time, and they all ran, they all moved every day. But it's still something you gotta look at.
Okay. So what's your, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a bad leg. My name's Kelly Graney. I live at 220 2nd Street Southeast. And I'd like to comment on Dick Luckensmeyer's statement that the police department needs some help. If there were volunteers that drove around like retired people and listed all of this stuff, like in my neighborhood, I can think of just off the top of my head 4 buildings the roofs are caving in on. There's holes in them. Would it do any good?
I would say it absolutely would do good. And I think that was the spirit of the complaint basis that we tried to get. It wasn't necessarily so much trying to pit neighbor against neighbor as it's been framed, although I know it can sometimes end up that way.
Well,
but it was to me, it's a way to involve a little responsibility from a property owner standpoint in the neighborhood sense. And I agree with every concern that you guys are presenting. I don't disagree with any of it.
I actually did that here, was last fall. And I just drove around the southeast and southwest part of town. And I give the list to Barry, and Barry give it to you to go around and look at this stuff. I don't think anything was ever done of it. So that's why I say, are you just beating your head against a wall by complaining, or will it actually do some good at some point in time?
Well, I think we would all agree that the property owner, the nuisance property owner, has to take some ownership and responsibility. That's why I ask, is there enough teeth in the current ordinance for what you guys are seeking? Because, we can fine all day long. Well, what if they don't pay the fine?
Chief Schaefer told me that if they don't clean it up, the city will clean it up and assess them. So that is teeth in the ordinance.
I think our ordinance does have the teeth in it. I think that right now, Doug and the police department are operating on pretty much a complaint basis. And if you want to ratchet it up, they can start, when they see something about clear violation, they do what needs to be done according to our ordinance and work with the property owner to see that it gets done.
And no 2-week abatement every time?
Well, there is a timeline.
the law.
You do have to, you have to give them 5 days to get this cleaned up. So there is a process, and it doesn't happen quickly, but it would ratchet it up somewhat so that they would, if they see a violation, if a police officer is out patrolling, he sees a violation that, that right now I don't think that that's happening. I don't mean to speak out of turn, Bob, but it's more of a complaint basis type of deal unless it's something flagrant. But I think we do have teeth. I think it's just a matter of the council. The council must be behind the staff when they do that, so that when they do start doing that, we don't do any backpedaling. Well, now wait a minute, I thought we were doing it on a complaint basis. It all needs to be clear up front, supportive of what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Oh, no, I've seen Bob take care of business. It's just that it takes so long to do it.
It does sometimes, I agree. Our attorneys tell us that we have to give the property owner due process and to allow them time to make the corrections before we proceed. But I understand, Kelly.
Well, and sometimes I would say this too. Sometimes, unfortunately, what is a mess to one person is not necessarily a mess to another person. So, You know, as unfortunate as that is, you know, you've got to give the person time to clean up their mess before you can.
Well, Mayor, we've had instances, in fact, probably several instances over the years that we've given that 5-day abatement period or for them to abate it. And they do get that taken care of, only to have another issue right thereafter. So you just continually chase the situation down the road with some of these property owners. And be prepared, because there'll be people coming here complaining that we've decided to enforce this. I've seen it happen. So we're going to take some heat. But the police department and public works department are doing only what we've asked them to do.
Right.
So, I mean, these guys aren't lax in their duties. We agreed to allow this to happen.
Well, and I would never have any problem with a law that's on the books being enforced. Be very clear about that. And Doug, what are your?
Well, I was just gonna bring up, we do have some dilapidated and some empty structures, that you guys talked about. We got some garages in town, they're just horrible. And I know about a lot of them. It takes time when you start doing that, when we're starting to go into that realm of things. As you know, I think I've been here 8 years now. It took 4 or 5 years just to get possession of some of those darn properties and get them taken care of, like we've been working on. We have 2 set for some controlled burns this year. That's a long, drawn-out process. Just, you know, once we start it, it starts, but just so people know, it's not instantaneous demolition of a building, or the city gives you 90 days. The city just can't go in there in 90 days and tear something down a lot of times, especially if taxes are being paid and different things and whatnot. And we need to have not just council support, but you know, city attorney support too is a big one. You know, moving swiftly is tough when you're talking about the legal system. But I did want to throw some of that out there. But I think that's, I appreciate everything what you've all said tonight. So.
Then there's the expense to the city when you tear down that property.
There's quite a significant expense.
Do you have on that list the house at the northeast corner of 6th Avenue and 1st Street Northeast?
Yes, sir. It's actually on the slate to be, I got a court order for that one. The city does not own it, but we do have a court order to demo that. And we've gone through the process as far as all the asbestos and everything has been removed, and we're that far. I anticipated it actually being a controlled burn, training fire in November. Fire department has switched fire chiefs in the meanwhile. And the new fire chief actually has that, and that's coming up here on the council agenda real soon, so you bet.
Doug, what's the address of the second house that's on the table?
Off the top of my head, well,
400 block of 1st Street Southwest.
thanks, Bob. Yep, 400 block of 1st Street Southwest.
You know where they are.
Down by the street department. I actually got a name for it, but it's a previous owner's name. I hate to bring that up in here, so but that's how I know it as, unfortunately. But yeah, and then we know there's a few others to tackle, but to put them in the pipeline, to put 5 or 6 in the pipeline is probably not feasible at a $50,000-$60,000 expense.
But those are in the budget.
But those have been budgeted, and we've been trying to budget, you know, a little bit here and there, and I think it's time, you know, we could put some more in the pipeline. It's a little easier probably to go after some of these small garden sheds that are falling over, and maybe some garages, but you know, it's when people are paying the taxes on, it makes it a little harder legally in the realm when we go to court. So that's sometimes people, I think there's been some perception in the community that, oh, gosh, the city, geez, they're not doing anything. And really there's a lot of times where there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that we've actually been trying to work on. And I know Bob and I've talked, we're on board to do whatever you want. That's our main goal, is to try to please the community, and that's what we want to do.
Are these basically the same violators over and over that own multiple properties?
Can be, at times. I'm not going to say every time, but but it sure, there's people that, yeah.
So you'd reap the harvest out of it as rental, and then just let it go, and the city'd take over?
It's happened.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
No problem. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
And one question, we don't have anything in the code as far as a a garage or a house that needs paint, that forces them to paint, or something needs siding because the siding's dilapidated unless it's falling off. Do we have anything in the code for that?
You bet we do. However, that is part of the International Property Maintenance Code that we've only utilized as a rental housing code. We've adopted that code, but we've strictly utilized that for rental housing. Can we use it for owner occupied? We can, but we haven't. But it's in there.
Even to the point of requiring someone to paint their house?
Yes.
I got one on my grave.
Dick, if you drive around, Hampton's turning into a dump.
Oh, I know
It
the
is.
properties, and
South
I echo what
12th.
Steve said about the expense of some of these houses that just need to come down. Some of these structures need to come down. The expense is there, and we need to work at it as diligently as we can. My question was more, some of the properties are just unkept because they aren't painted. If that's an area where we can go or should go.
That's up to the council.
That's up to the council. There's as much as making sure windows are caulked. But you want to be whatever you want us to do.
That was one of the lines of definition between a person living there that owns it, owner occupied versus a rental property.
Yes, sir.
And that's why the council at that time, I think, took a look and stayed away from that. We felt it was different. If you want to live in that dump, per se, was different than if somebody didn't have any other choice and needed a place to rent. Because in addition to that, that also give that renter some rights that, say if you had a leaking water heater and as a landlord you couldn't get them to fix it, they could turn that in, then they don't have to pay their rent until that is fixed. That was part of that basis.
It was. Oh yeah, there was a reason for it. And a lot of the reason when you start talking about pit neighbor versus neighbor, this, like Craig said earlier, the heat could really be turned up both ways on this topic in a real quick manner, unfortunately.
Well, I'm sure all you folks accepted your office understanding that there would be heat to absorb. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, you've been in these chairs before, Jeff. It's like,
Yes, I have.
not these, but other cities. So.
Uh,
I served on the Hampton City Council for 4 years.
Is there anything else on that item? Okay. Move on then, under unfinished business, we have further discussion of fluoridation of public water supply. Is there any new comments to add to that? Last meeting, council voted to table the measure. Anything new to add? Comments?
Certainly the majority of the comments that I have received by far say keep adding water, fluoride to the water if it needs to be added to bring it up to the specified level of 0.7 parts per million.
I did a running consensus at the car wash for the past 2 weeks, and I came up with about 95% wanted us to leave it in. I had one person suggest we take it out. I had 4 people that didn't care one way or the other. But the vast majority said just leave it in. They felt it was doing good, they didn't want to take it out.
Okay. Anything else on that then?
I've had a lot of comments of keeping it in, but I've had a lot more people give me information of why it needs to be taken out. Fewer people, but more information, and it's worth more.
Yeah. I think I've alluded to before, I think people will, I think I've noted previously that I received more comments of people who are in favor of taking it out, but I think people, like I said, will generally speak to those of us that agree with him, I guess. And since, I've taken the public stance that I would like to see it taken out, then those who prefer that way will contact me, whatever. I've had a couple of property owners contact me and support my position. But I think what's been said is pretty clear, that I think the majority of the public opinion would be to leave it in. Just like a few years ago, I think the majority of the public opinion would have been to take it out, as Craig has discussed it. Steve, you were on the council at the time, but it went the other way, supporting that status quo position, which is where we're at, so.
I can say this, after we tabled it, I didn't get a single phone call. Before that, I got several. Okay, and as I stated the other night, it was pretty much a split, and I haven't heard any more since then. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think, I agree, I think there's more, I've heard a lot more that are for it from everybody else.
Well, we'll leave the issue tabled then, because I mean, the action that would be taken would there would have to be an ordinance voted to repeal it, and if there's not support for the ordinance, then there's probably no sense in bringing it back up. So we'll leave it on the table until you guys say otherwise, I guess. So, all right. Next is discussion of pending renewal of the hotel motel tax agreement between the city and the chamber. And I think all the council members have received a copy of what Ron has drafted. At the last meeting, we discussed having Ron kind of meld the county agreement that the chamber had proposed with the existing city agreement. I don't know if you guys have all had a chance to go over it. What are some of your thoughts? There was one paragraph in there where you can use one paragraph or the other. Other than that, I think everything is pretty straightforward. Is there any discussion or question items for Ron? Brooke, did you want to say anything on this tonight? Or? Okay.
I've got a couple of thoughts. Yes. Number one, we have, by vote of the people, we have the 60% of this revenue that's going for this purpose. And what we draft in agreement has nothing to do with that at all. I think the chamber has, in their bylaws, really spelled out their makeup and what their intent is. So I think that helps cover a lot of what was in the old agreement. But a couple of things I really like, and what you have. This came from our last meeting. Fifth paragraph down where it says. And this is pointing toward those dollars of tourism coming from that tax money being supportive of not only the city of Hampton, but the surrounding area to provide enhanced growth for the entire community. So I agree very much with the fourth and fifth paragraphs, whereas the city desires to enter into an agreement within the chamber for the operation of Franklin County tourism so as to provide services to effectively promote and develop tourism within the city of Hampton and Franklin County to the resulting economic benefit of its citizens, and whereas the city has proposed to provide 60% of the revenue generated from the hotel and motel tax to the chamber in support of activities to promote tourism to be carried out on behalf of the city of Hampton and Franklin County. I think that's very important. The term item there, it really doesn't make any difference whether it's a 10-year term on this or whether it's perpetual. I would say let's just go ahead and make it perpetual because it's an agreement between the two parties that can be stopped at any time. And also under operation, the last part of that sentence is the conditions adopted by the bylaws of the FTC, otherwise determined by the chamber. I think that did a great deal to cover. I mean, even like the number of people that are on the board. I'm not sure that we need to say how many people need to be on the chamber's board to govern this. They're doing it themselves with their own bylaws. So I would be in favor of going back, making these adjustments to the wording so that it's showing us for a benefit of Hampton and Franklin County. I'd be in agreement. I would like to see us make it a perpetual agreement. And the balance of that, that we adopt, the proposal that brought forth that mirrors the county proposal, because I think it covers everything for us. Okay. Not county proposal, but county agreement with the chamber.
Right. Understood. Okay. Craig, did you have any thoughts? I know you had several questions at the last meeting.
Right, and I still think that it's important to have a term limit. I don't agree with perpetual statement, irregardless of how the vote was. I know the vote was different than the agreement per se, but the group that put this together the first time around felt the need that they should have a term limit. And one of the people that was in favor of that was at the time the city of Hampton mayor, who was also involved very heavily with the chamber. And they didn't have a problem with it then, and I don't think we should have a problem with it now. I don't mind the lion's share of this revenue does come from the city of Hampton through this taxation process. I don't have a problem with it being used throughout the county as we agreed upon the other night. But I personally would like to see some term limits.
I'd like to echo that because, you know, no matter how good an agreement you have, you should have a date certain to re-examine. Things change. I won't be here. Greg might not, none of us may be here, okay? But they have a date certain, you can go back through and they can change stuff. And I know in a perpetual agreement you can come up with, do it anytime you want to. But this date certain keeps it a little better agreement.
About Diane and Val, what do you guys?
I'm quite content with perpetual. They bring us their books once a year. We have a chance in January every year. If we don't like something, we can change it then. We can bring the situation up then. If something we've seen we don't like, I see no reason to have to totally go through this again.
Okay. Val, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna go with the gentleman over there. I'm agreeing with the term.
All right. Kind of split there. I don't know what Jim's thoughts would be, but based on that, we've got a 3-2 in favor of that term limit there. So Ron, why don't you just draft with the term limit, and we can bring that up for a vote on Thursday. Any other discussion on that?
Leave the rest of the document the same.
Was there any other?
I believe in Jim's email when he said he wasn't going to be here, he was in favor of the perpetual.
Okay.
Well, how he worded
okay.
that.
That's fine. Okay. Well, then we're split evenly. Yeah, I mean, either way. So, either way, I mean, the agreement's still got to be voted on, so we'll just go with that one for now, and if it fails, we'll
Which one?
try again.
10 year?
10 year.
Okay.
Now, the proposal that was given to us by the chamber eliminated several paragraphs of description. Are we going to, what we vote on is going to include all of that then?
What you will vote on is this document with the term. That's would be a 10-year term. Is what you'd be voting on.
Which still has like the whole harmless. The board of directors, you know, Dick, you mentioned the number of members are in the bylaws. That's still in this one, basically because it was in the old one, and I didn't know if the council wanted any say in how many members are on that board. Hold harmless, I guess. I always tend to lean towards protecting the city since I'm the city manager, and the wording in there is protected to the city. Tell me to take it out, we'll take it out. I did shorten up the number 4, termination. That was quite lengthy in the original agreement that talked about termination noticed by the city, and that I think it pretty much alluded to the city would stop funneling the funds, 60% towards the chamber, and that simply can't happen. So we removed that wording altogether. So that shortened up number 4 quite a bit.
That board of directors was one of the things I was pointing to. There
Yes.
just seems to be extra wording that their bylaws are covering. If we leave it in, we leave it in. It just seems like it's doubling up on what already exists. So
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
yeah, it just seems like that's extra wording that we really don't need.
The reason I was in favor of this is solely because we do have an ex officio member in a city designated person, whoever it be, the city manager or whatever, and one county board supervisor's person, so that they have a seat at the table. Now, they're not going to vote, but they at least, that's another set of eyes and ears, and the city always has a representative there too, in the form of Councilman Davies at this point in time.
Also, when you discuss that, I talked with the mayor about that, and if you look at board of directors, in the previous agreement, it said that the city manager would be.
Right.
In this one, we were proposing one member, or I'm proposing, letting the mayor know for his consideration, one member shall be a Hampton City Council member appointed by the Hampton mayor annually, and one member shall be Franklin County supervisor. Supervisor is an elected official. I thought maybe it's best if we have an elected official sitting on the Franklin County Tourism Board, as opposed to city manager, but that's.
Well, and I would agree with that, because I don't want this to sound wrong, but I think that you've got other things you could probably be doing, setting in a meeting you have no input on.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no vote, you won't have a vote, but, you know, and I also thought maybe it'd be a good idea for the mayor to appoint someone annually, so that he doesn't appoint one and you're there for years, and you can change it up annually, or you can appoint the same person, you know. Also, by attending those meetings, as a council person, you have a real feel for what's happening, as opposed to hearing secondhand from me, or reading in the minutes, you know, I forward your minutes and things like that, so.
And again, I'm just claiming that we have the option to do that. Any council member can go to those meetings and sit in. Anyone can go and sit in. So I was just looking at cleaning it up a little bit, and I'm okay with leaving it in there.
I said unless Brooke barricades the doors.
He's pretty rough.
I'd probably like to
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay. Anything else on that item then? Okay. Forward to that then on Thursday. Okay. Next then we have discussion of request for no parking zone in the 600 block of 2nd Street Southeast near the Hampton Rehabilitation Center. We brought this up the last meeting. Slocums are here, and they had presented me with a concern. And Doug, do you want to bring us up to speed on kind of what you've done since that time?
Basically, it's kind of before the council to determine if we would take a look at placing some restrictions on the parking, one side, either side, both sides. In that stretch that you see highlighted on your handout, we can do anything from our standpoint here at the city, and just looking for some guidance on how to proceed. Some of the thoughts and ideas that have been thrown out there was from certain time limits, maybe 8 to 5. Sky's the limit. We can make those signs say anything you want darn near, but it has to be an ordinance, and we have to, do it legally and put it on the books. That way it can be enforced appropriately. So, the street, I believe, tried to measure that up. We were looking at 31, 32 feet. Is that correct, Ron? I pulled that up roughly.
That's going off of an aerial map.
Yeah, and that's the width on there. You have approximately 250 feet long there.
And we did send letters to the residents in the area as well as the rehabilitation
We
center.
attempted to call the rehab center to see if they had any questions or concerns, and I know I didn't get through, and I don't know that Ron got through.
Yeah, I left a message, but I haven't talked to anybody yet.
So, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Could we hear from this?
Yeah, I was just waiting for Doug to finish up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been in contact with, both administrators since I moved in there, first Claudia, and then Kathy. That's why actually I'm here. Kathy said, well, call the council, or call the mayor. Because basically, they use that as a parking lot. You see it from the map. All the cars parked there, and you see the empty parking spots. A lot of times that first car on the south is probably there about 6 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes they're there from, sometimes like today they're all gone at 4. And sometimes they're there till 10. When I come home from work, I can't park there because they're all there. And like I said, I've tried all kinds of stuff. They put signs in there by the clock. Leave them a spot, and people basically don't care. They just, because it's a nice straight shot into the care center. So and it's gradually gotten worse over the years. As they get bigger, And now with that clinic coming in there, I'm thinking it's really gonna get bad. So I'm hoping we can have some kind of restriction on there so that I can park there, you know, and my family can park there, but they can't use it as a parking lot.
What kind of time frame are you thinking
Like
would be
maybe
best
8
served?
to 4. I kind of think that works good for me.
And every day of the week,
Monday through
weekdays
Friday.
only?
Really, weekends aren't too bad. It's mainly the weekdays, you know, because you got all these different shifts coming in there. Then they have 2 cars parked there in the morning shift, and then the second shift comes in and they fill in the third spot, and my whole front's full. And a lot of times they're behind the driveway. I know my neighbor at North Crab Creek said, yeah, they'd like to see something going there too, because they park by their place.
Up closer towards the intersection, Jim.
Yeah, if you go north from there, that little square gray box is my house, and then the one to the north is Crabtree.
I know what it's like to get a big bus through there when it's full.
Yeah, it's tight sometimes.
Yeah, and then you get a semi in there delivering supplies.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have EMS run where the ambulance tries to get down in there. It's very constricted.
Yeah, and then, like this winter, you know, my wife's birthday party, all my family is coming home. Well, it snowed the night before, and they all parked right there, so you can see their snowplow went around all the cars. So I got hold of Sean, and said, you know, can you get somebody down there to move that snow? Because if you don't have a 4-wheel drive, you're not going to park in there. And they were there. It seemed like minutes. They got there really fast, cleaned it all out.
I'd like to say that was skill, but that was totally wasn't there.
Well,
I just happened to be in the area when I called it.
Well, it worked out.
It worked out good.
But you know, so and every time it snows, you can see the spot that go around, and the street sweeper goes down our street. You can see it goes around. So in front of my house, it's always got dirt and dust and all that in front of there. And I try to make my house look nice, keep my house up, and I think it looks bad. And like I said, I've tried all kinds of stuff to try to get them to do that. I said, just leave me in one spot. And they don't leave me in one spot. They don't care. You know, they just worry about where they're going to park.
We've had a little bit of discussion about whether to do both sides of the street or just one side of the street. And I'm hearing you're saying 8 to 4 would be good, Monday through Friday. What about one side, your side only versus both sides?
I can live with that. I'd like to see both sides, but I'm kind of stuck. But I know it depends, you know, what you guys want to do, I guess. I'm happy with my side. I'd live with that.
I guess I'm kind of looking at both sides because of the fact of everything that was brought to my attention. I definitely think there needs to be a restriction on there. And with the amount of traffic that comes in with like the semis, and what my biggest concern is, and you know, you can't put a time on this, but is the EMS, you know, and they got to get in there. They don't need to be battling cars.
And at night, there isn't as many cars. I've been down through there at night. 8 to 4 would probably be the optimal time, in my opinion, because that's the time of high traffic.
Don't you think if there was a time frame that would probably send the message that you're looking to send, and you probably wouldn't maybe see the parking the rest of the time either?
Oh, probably not.
I'm assuming.
I assume so, yeah.
Say, until Kathy to go ahead and pave that new parking lot they got built off the side, no people will park in that then.
Yeah, I'll bet they will.
Yeah, I mentioned at the last meeting, just as a refresher for everybody, but you know, I did have a conversation with Kathy the first time after you contacted me about it, and she expressed the same frustration that you did, in that so much that, you know, she has tried to relay your concern and what you wanted as a neighbor.
She's been very good.
And like she said, there's only so much she can do, though. You know, brought it up at meetings, posted notes, and
and it kind of cycles. You know, they'll go for a while, and nobody parks there. Then I think the new people move in, come in, they all park there. And then I'll complain some more. Then she'll get on a little bit. Then they'll cycle again. So.
But there are other considerations too, like we mentioned, snow plows and emergency vehicles.
Like I said, I'm really concerned when that clinic opens there too. You know, it's going to be more employees, more people, more patients. I mean, it will be basically like you said, like now it's a parking lot.
So, well, it's council input. Do we want to have something drafted?
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Jim.
I I think so. I don't think we have in my opinion, we don't really have an option. They have plenty of parking. I mean, I've been trying to look at, they have plenty of parking. So, I think we should.
Steve, what do you think?
8-4 both sides.
Craig?
I would agree with that. The director, Ms. Salvi, has tried to talk to staff, and they've gone out of their way. Slocums have been very patient and understanding, and I think that this sends a message like we've indicated, Mayor. See what happens. You may want to consider it at some point in time. Nobody lives in this house down around the southeast, do they, Jim?
No,
So, I mean, I
that
don't
could be
know
your
if it's-
nuisance, one of your nuisance deals.
What I'm getting at is at some point in time,
That was right.
a
close parking lot.
Make that close parking lot.
For the time being.
They'd
They do place for it.
Sure would be a good place for it.
Diane?
My mother was in that nursing home for several years here recently, and I know I appreciated having a place to park when I got there each time it wasn't filled with employees. But I also understand the road is quite congested, and I would like to see at least one side, maybe not both, but at least one side no parking.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure if one side is enough. It might be. I mean, I could support both sides, but for sure, one side.
All right. I have something directed for both sides from 8 to 4,
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
We'll do.
Anything else on that item? Any other public comment at this time? Yeah, Dick?
I'd like to encourage, thank you, gentlemen, all three of you, for coming in and talking about the nuisance situation. And don't give up on us when there's some things out there that you see that need to be corrected. Please continue to let us know. Thank you for the attention you're paying toward keeping Hampton a better place.
Anything else for the good of the cause? 7:27, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
That's on.